Hello, baby. Welcome to the Smart People Podcast. Sit back, grab a drink, tune in your brain.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
This nation will rise up.
One giant leap for mankind. 760.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Smart People Podcast. I am Chris Stemp, and I have alongside John Rojas as usual.
How you doing?
First, I wanted to say, in the spirit of Christmas and giving, we're giving you our third episode only a few days after we've aired our second, and we'll probably be putting our fourth one out pretty soon too. We're just excited about all the great interviews that we have, all the ones we have lined up, and we figured why wait to pass them along to you. So look for those coming out soon. Also, I wanted to point something out that although this is the Smart People Podcast, it's not specifically for people who have designations after their name. You don't have to be a PhD or an MD to have something interesting to say. We simply want to be a place where you can come and listen to leading professionals in their field. We might be discussing large life issues, or we might be talking about very specific industries. It's kind of a variety show, if you will, and the common theme is all of our guests are truly great at what they do. They have interesting things to pass along to you, at least we think so, and we think it'll be time well spent.
That being said, when deciding who to have as our guest for this week, I wanted to reach into my love for radio and podcasting. Podcasts have always been a huge part of my life, whether it be listening to them in the car, at the gym, around the house. I always seem to have some type of podcast on my iPhone, and the Mike O'Mara Show has always been a big part of that. So for today's podcast, we welcome Robb Spewak of the Mike O'Mara Show, which can be found at mikeomarashow.com and on iTunes. I chose to reach out to Robb because of the success he's had on both the radio and podcasts. In less than a year, the Mike O'Mara Show has had over 4 million downloads and was ranked one of the top 25 podcasts of 2010 on iTunes. Both of these are huge accomplishments for a podcast that's only been on the internet for about a year. So that being said, I hope you find Robb's interview as interesting as we do. Today on the podcast, we welcome Robb Spewak from the Mike O'Mara Show, which can be found at mikeomarashow.com. Robb, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Hi, John. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I must say, of all the podcasts I've ever done, this is certainly the most recent.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean it with every bit of my being. So, no, thank you for having me, fellas.
No problem. And as I mentioned, the Mike O'Mara Show, you guys are around 237 shows now. Been on the internet for about, over a year now?
Just about a year. We started on December 7th, 2009. And so we are staring at our first anniversary. And yeah, we recorded episode 237 today.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I see that you guys have over 4 million downloads and appear in over 145 countries. Did you guys imagine this type of success so early with the podcast?
We imagined it. We imagined that we'd be doing a hell of a lot better than this. No, I'm kidding. We hoped for it, certainly. But no, I think, it's hard for me to speak for Mike or Buzz or Oscar, but I think that the success is rather overwhelming and very, very gratifying. It's very exciting because we went into this not knowing anything about podcasting. I remember my biggest deal with Oscar when he came to us and said, we could try this. I said, do you think we can really do it for just an hour a day? That doesn't seem like a real job, but then radio never does. So, and he said, yeah. And he explained to me that, most people only listen for about an hour a day anyway. So if we just provide an hour that they can listen to on their own schedule, that's plenty. And I love it. I'm as proud of what we're doing now as anything that I've done in my my checkered career. But I think we all sound our best. We're all delighted. We're all very happy, and we're all in a really good place because of it.
Yeah, the show sounds absolutely amazing, and it's just a joy to listen to.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. So how did you go about getting into the radio industry?
A series of horrible decisions. No one decision could make a mistake that bad. So no, I'm kidding. I started as they will tell you on the show. I'm just an aging old queen, and I was, for lack of a better word, a drama fag in high school. That's what they called us. I was told it was with love, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I was a theater guy, and a lot of my friends were auditioning and doing theater stuff for college. And I looked at myself. I said, you're not even the best theater guy in high school. How are you going to make a career, in the real world? So I tried to figure out something where I could goof off but still get a job, and broadcasting seemed to be the right track for that. And I was accepted at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in quotation marks. And at that time, they were still an accredited mass comm school in the state of Virginia. They've lost it. I don't know if they've got it back, but at the time, it was a decent school. So I went there and used that to learn the basics. But really, if you talk about broadcasting, college is just an excuse to get an internship. College doesn't teach you anything. Right. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I learned about economics.
What kind of economics was that?
Apparently having to get by on very, very little if you're
exactly.
going to work for CBS Radio. You want to talk about microeconomics, you should have seen my paycheck. So yeah, it was looking for a way to goof off and make a career of it. And radio and broadcasting seemed to be the way. Now, once I got to VCU, the weird thing is everyone in the broadcasting track wanted to get into television. I had no use for television because the equipment was way too heavy. I mean, I saw people going out to do their projects and they're having to carry cameras and batteries, and at that point, recorders. The cameras were not one piece. And I'd go out and cover an event with a tape recorder. And it was easy. So once again, laziness was a key factor in it. But I'm the old joke, a face for radio. I'm not a TV guy. All of my professors said, "You know what you'd be good at, Rob?" They'd say, "What?" They'd say, "You'd be good as a weatherman." Now, don't be fooled. That's professor code for saying you're a fat guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because all weathermen are fat. So I was too fat to be an anchor. I wasn't a good-looking enough guy to be out in the field. So they said, "You could be a weather guy." I said, "You know what? I'll just stick to playing records." And from that, I got into the college station, and it was all downhill from there.
Nice. So how long have you been in the radio industry?
I started interning. I guess that's when you'd have to start it. In April of 1992, I started interning with the Don and Mike radio show. Hey, this is very, very professional. My phone's ringing. Can you hold on a second?
Yeah, no
I will
problem.
mute that. Horrible. Don't worry, folks. We'll edit that out. There we
can
go.
do that.
Okay, all done. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, I started with Don and Mike in April of 92 as an intern. I was hired by CBS Radio, which then was Infinity Broadcasting, in August of 93. So 18 years, roughly? Yeah, 18 and a half years.
And now that you guys are, I guess, the connoisseurs of podcasting, what's the major difference between the podcast you have now versus the old shows that you used to do? I mean, besides keeping stuff clean for the FCC, I know you still kind of have to do that with
we still toe the line as far as the content because we have two affiliates. Mm-hmm. And see, the thing that was funny about broadcasting with CBS is your content was not really regulated by the FCC. It was regulated by CBS.
Okay.
Because they didn't want to have trouble with the FCC. So you can bet that they were going to err on the side of being conservative. And you just can't go in there and do a radio show when you're having to second guess yourself 3 times about whether or not you can use a word like, something as innocent as the word poop. And I can say that because we're on the internet. So I can say poop this and bull poop and you don't mean poop to me and all that. But they would really sweat that stuff. Like, well, what context are you using the word poop? I one time got an email from a very high-powered attorney on K Street in Washington, D.C. when I inquired as to playing a fart sound effect. This is really, an attorney with a reputation. I got an email back, and when you get an email and it's on letterhead, and you're dealing with someone who's important, the context of the email, the content rather, said, "Can you describe the nature of the fart?" I said, "What fart?"
No way. No way.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they're billing CBS hours for that.
Wow.
So I think one of the main differences between terrestrial, where we used to be, and the podcast where we are now is not so much content, but a sensibility. It's goofy. It's a fart. It's the funniest thing God has given us on this earth.
Right.
So we can roll with it as long as if just don't get disgusting, except occasionally.
I was gonna say, yeah, because you guys get around that with the Raw shows that you have to offer.
Well, that is something that's an extra product that we all came up with. That I can remember getting started in the business. One of the coolest things was getting to hear disc jockeys or people in the business that as being professional, to get to hear them cuss. There was nothing cooler than that. The first time I heard the uncensored tape of Casey Kasem drop the F-bomb, it changed my world. So, we have to imagine in the same vein, but perhaps in a much smaller way, there are people that download the podcast that would like to hear us truly being us. And that was the birth of the Raw show. And also that was a response to people wanting more content. And it's also a way to, make some revenue for us, because we're not in it for kicks. But it's worked out very, very well, and we enjoy it very much. And it's fun to not have to bleep a broadcast when we're all done.
Oh, I bet. And speaking of which, how long does that take you when you have to go through and, even this morning's podcast, 237, with all the bleeping I had to do.
Yeah, I raised my voice at Mike today. Not long. No, we record. I don't know if there's anyone who is incredibly tech savvy listening that cares, but we use Adobe Audition to record the show, and the bleeping is very easy. If you watch on the video of the Ustream while we're doing the show, people laugh because as soon as someone says a bad word, the first thing that happens is I write down the time code. So I know where it is to bleep it. Yeah. So yeah, Mike gives me a hard time because it's an extra effort, but it's inconsequential. I'd still rather not have to do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And on the show now, you're doing one of your main segments is the Audio Vault, which is the segment on the show where you play funny television and internet clips. How long have you been doing the Audio Vault, and how did you get brought into that? Because it's a very, I want to say, unique segment of the show.
It started. I've pulled tape my entire life. I remember doing it on VHS, and you'd want to find something good that you could bring in and play on the show. It goes back to when I was working with the Don and Mike show, and then when Mike and Don, when the Don and Mike show stopped and the Mike O'Mara show began, Mike started looking for more and more audio, and I just started to really run with it. And I always got, now with the DVR, it's so easy because if you're watching it, you're recording it, and you can grab the stuff over and over again. The internet makes it a lot easier too because of all the people that share things, and you don't have to be there the first time. But it was just, we were looking for content, and then when we realized that, gosh, there's 10, 15, 20 minutes of content a day. What can we do with it? Instead of sprinkling it around, we concentrated it into one segment. And I love doing it because it's my chance to show off and make the guys laugh. Because I've heard all this stuff, but I love to surprise Mike with stuff that he's not expecting. And that's a lot of fun. And I think that also conveys, because I think Mike enjoys listening to the Audio Vault as the listeners do. He has no idea what's coming up. And so that leaves a lot of surprise to it and makes it a lot of fun. And it's a great excuse. They always say, if you find something you love and figure out a way to get paid for it, you'll never work a day in your life. Oh, and that's very, very jive. But I figured out a way to get paid for watching TV. Not too shabby. Of course, not paid very much, but just some.
See, this is the reason we had you on Smart People Podcast, because it takes a smart man to realize that or figure it out.
I think the first thing you do when you hit stop on the tape, go ahead and raise the bar. Don't book someone like me to be on a smart person's podcast. Hey, this looks to me like 5 people canceled, frankly.
Oh, no way.
You figure out a way to get paid to watch TV. If I could do that, I wouldn't have to I could stop playing poker and try and earn $5 an hour doing that.
How about this? My wife figured out a way to make the television a tax deduction.
Oh man,
Oh wow.
Isn't that great?
we should be interviewing her too, is what you're saying.
No. The show is not long enough. I don't care how long it is. It's not long enough to talk to my wife.
Speaking of making money, though, something I commend you for, and I don't know how some people do it, is, I mean, obviously, when you went to school, that had to be tough, realizing, I'm going to work in radio and I'm going to make a career out of it, because it's tough to do that. Did that ever kind of worry you? So just like, how am I?
Yeah,
going to
a little bit, a little bit, but it's, if you don't have a passion for it, don't try. I've got, through emails originally letters, then emails and stuff on Facebook. I get letters and communications from people that are in high school or, in their 20s, and they say, I don't know, I think I want to get into radio. What do you think? And I always tell them, don't do it. Because if you're thinking about it, you already lack the drive to make it happen.
Right.
Because even at the worst position, if you have your foot in the door and you're running board on Thanksgiving morning at 6 a.m, and you say, oh, screw this, I don't want to do this, have fun, because there's 6 people that are dying to have that job.
Right.
And you got to be ready, to roll with it and go with it and take whatever crap positions that are offered and sort of climb up through the ranks. I was very, very lucky. My parents were very, very supportive. My wife has been very, very supportive. It was a long time before I made as much as her. And it's come to a time where I'm not making as much as her again. But it really is. It's what I love to do. And if you have that passion, you'll figure out a way to make it work. And as long as the people around you, are supportive, if not financially, certainly morally, that's what you want to do, you got to make it work. I mean, and there were times when when I lost my job and we had nothing in the pipeline, I'm thinking, well, God, is Radio Shack hiring? What can I do? My past of employment has not really been that varied. I sold vegetables. I worked at Safeway. I delivered furniture. And I was on a nationally syndicated radio show. I tend to focus on the radio show part. That was the best job. So luckily the podcast is coming together. And also a lot of support from the people at KCJJ Radio in Iowa City and Coralville in Iowa, which is an odd pairing, but he had been an affiliate supporter of the Mike O'Mara Show and the Don and Mike Show before that. And as soon as I lost my job, he said, if there's anything you want to do, let me know. We'll put it on our air. And I said, well, God, I've always wanted to spin records. It was music radio that made me want to get into the business in the first place. But I got luckily into a talk deal. And you didn't get we played records going in and out of stuff, but not like the hot rock and flamethrowing disc jockeys of when I was growing up. And so he gave me 4 hours a week to do whatever I want. And so now I've built, for lack of a better word, a functioning studio in my basement. And I do a 4-hour music show for him every week that I post at robbradio.com. And that's a blast too. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to see if you wanted to plug anything else, like the show that you do for KCJJ.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read ahead. You must hate that.
or even Mike's other show.
Oh, of course, on 105.9 The Edge.
Yes, exactly.
You're based in the DC area, right?
No, well, I'm originally from DC and I'm in Scottsdale now. But yeah, so you could kind of say I'm based in DC.
Oh, you
so
can take the boy out. You can take the boy out of DC, but you can't take the DC out of the boy. Right. And of course, every morning on 105.9 The Edge, Mike and Kirk McEwen do a great morning show. It is really the only music station I listen to in the market. And of course, Mike on the radio, you can't beat it. He's the funniest and the best. He is, as G. Gordon Liddy used to say, a very clever mimic, but nice. He's the best impressionist, and it's a great radio show. So yeah, check out Mike every morning. Then what you do is you run home and you download the Mike O'Mara Show podcast, and that kills the time till Friday when you can go to KC 1630 kcjj.com and listen to my music show and hear me pretending to be Dan Ingram.
Very nice. Well, Rob, I appreciate it. I promised you that I would keep this as close to 15 minutes as possible. So once again, thank you, Robb Spewak of the Mike O'Mara Show at mikeomarashow.com.
John and Chris, I appreciate your time very much, and do great with your podcast. Unless you do better than us, then we have to talk.
All right. Appreciate it,
I'm
Rob.
coming over and I'm pulling out some USB cables.
We'll try not to.
Have a great day.
All right,
Thanks,
you
you
too.
too. We really enjoyed talking to Rob today, as it was awesome being able to talk to someone that I look up to in the industry. Rob's a huge radio professional, and he gave us some great advice off the air after our interview. Again, Robb Spewak is part of the Mike O'Mara Show at MikeO'MaraShow.com and on iTunes. While you're subscribing to their show on iTunes, go ahead and subscribe to the Smart People Podcast as well, and then leave us a rating. It truly helps us out.
Also, I wanted to mention, you may have noticed on all of our podcasts, we feature music from the outdoors. They're a brand new band that Roach and I are huge fans of. So we're going to leave you guys a little treat today. We are going to play our favorite song, which is Barricades. And if you like what you hear, feel free to check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/theoutdoorsmusic. Also, go to their website, which is theoutdoorsmusic.com. Or if you only do Twitter, check them out at The Outdoors Band on Twitter. As I mentioned, this is a new band, so they've decided to run a campaign where they will contact any of their friends on Facebook or followers on Twitter and actually provide you with a free version, downloadable version of all 5 songs on their EP. So it's just a little incentive to go check them out, and we hope you enjoy. Thanks again for tuning in.
When I was a boy, I got lost inside the forest. The century woods, full of trees and dirty magazines. I climbed to the top, I could see all of my kingdom. I wanna wake up, I wanna wake up from this dream. Let up your barricade, let all the animals escape. Da 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 da. My grandfather died, so I didn't have to do the dishes. He left me alone in this big empty house. Now he's back as a ghost, and he follows